We all knew this day was coming. The Victor Wembanyama era isn't something on the horizon anymore. It's officially here. Before he even entered the league, he was the most hyped up prospect since LeBron James. And the feeling around the NBA was that the league was going to have a real problem on their hands for years to come. Over his first 2 seasons, Wemby was already incredible, posting 24 points per game last season, along with leading the NBA in blocks per game with 3.8. But the wild part is, he has not even scratched the surface. So now the question is, will this be the season where Wemby truly takes over the NBA? To find this out, we need to look at 4 different areas of his game and situation that could make this year the start of the Wembanyama era in the NBA. And the last one might be the most important of them all. But first, let's start off in the obvious place, his defensive impact. There are so many ways to impact the game defensively. You can dominate at the point of attack, be switchable, excel in help rotations, or anchor your defense at an elite level by being a rim protector. Most elite NBA defenders master 2 of these talents. But with Wemby, the guy does all 4. When people debate about who the best defender in the NBA is right now, I honestly don't think it's going to be much of a debate for very long. If it isn't already, because it's Victor. Last season, the San Antonio Spurs ranked just 25th in defensive rating, allowing teams to score 117.2 points per game. But with Wemby on the floor, everything changed. Opponents scored just 112.4 points per 100 possessions, which landed in the 73rd percentile. That's not just good, that's transformative. And when he wasn't on the floor, the Spurs basically had no defense to speak of, allowing 121.6 points per 100 without him. That's a 6th percentile level defense. Basically, one of the worst units in the league on that side of the floor. Then, when he was the closest defender, opponents only generated 0.92 points per shot, the 2nd best mark in the NBA last season. But here's what makes it even crazier. The shot quality that opponents were able to generate against him ranked 129th in the NBA. So, in other words, players were actually generating decent looks, but they just were not able to hit them. Why? Because he's absolutely terrifying. His length, mobility, and timing are just absurd. And that intimidation factor is a real one, but it certainly isn't just fear. His physical tools allow him to erase plays, to the point where he can single-handedly anchor a defense. If he maintains what he's already doing, he's easily going to be one of the best defenders in the world, probably for the next decade. But in year 3, he has the chance to end the conversation entirely. I can genuinely see him averaging more blocks than assists this season, while leading the Spurs to a top 10 defensive system. Now, the second biggest area that's going to define whether Victor Wembanyama truly takes over the league this season is, of course, his offensive game. Defensively, we already know the dude is special, but it's the scoring side of the ball that makes his game reach another level. And that's when the whole thing gets really scary. Just the fact that he's 7'5", and rumors that he's actually grown to 7'7" this year, with the ability to shoot the ball off the catch or off the dribble, makes him a complete nightmare offensive matchup. Bigs are too slow to stay in front of him, and the only real guys who have had any success defending him are power forward type players. The most effective high volume defenders on him last season were first LeBron James, who held him to 37.5% shooting over 8 possessions. Julius Randle also held him to 32.1% over 14 possessions. And surprisingly, Santi Aldama of the Memphis Grizzlies was really effective too, holding him to just 37.5% shooting over 16 possessions. But none of this is really going to matter once he gets better at just rising up into a jump shot, because absolutely nobody in the league can block, and that is where the growth really needs to come from. His ability to exploit his size. A lot of older NBA fans have been complaining that Wemby takes way too many threes, and doesn't get in the paint enough. And to be fair, I think they do have a point. I heard a stat recently that he actually gets to the free throw line less than Steph Curry, which for someone of his size and agility is just absolutely unacceptable. Last season, he got to the line just 4.1 times per game, and that's probably one of the biggest areas he needs to change this season. All of this begins and ends with his shot selection. Last season, 47% of his total field goal attempts were coming from three-point range, 8.8 attempts a game. And I'm not saying to completely cut out those looks, because that is what makes him such a unique threat. But there were way too many moments where he settled for the three instead of simply putting the ball on the deck and attacking the lane. Wemby was making those threes at a 35% clip last season, which certainly isn't terrible, but it wasn't enough to make defenses truly fear that shot over a rim run, because that's where he's basically unstoppable. At the rim, he was only taking 4.4 shots per game last season, literally half the amount of threes he was taking. And I get that this is all part of the modern NBA, but that just does not make sense for a 7-footer with the kind of ball handling and touch that the guy has. And here's the thing, he made those shots at a 76% clip, which is already strong, but it could get even better. Last year, part of what held him back was that slender frame. But in the preseason, we saw something incredibly different. He was straight up bullying guys down low, finishing through contact, and overall just looking a lot stronger. And the numbers back that up too. Over 35 preseason shot attempts that he took, 14 of them came at the rim, and he made 12 of those. That's an 86% clip. That's exactly what you want to see out of Wemby. From short to mid-range, another area he needs to embrace a bit more, he put up 12 shots from 5 to 14 feet. And he wasn't great from 5 to 9 feet, just 35%, but from 10 to 14 feet, he hit 75% of his shots, which is elite for someone of his size. From 3, he brought his attempt rate down to a much better place. Around 20% of his shots came from 3, and he knocked down 4 of 7, which is 57% shooting. That is the version of Wemby that I believe would be flat out unguardable. But what would all of this even look like? And where would that place him in the NBA right now? Well, this is the third big area we need to cover, because if we see this version of Victor Wembanyama this season, the guy who's getting to the rim more often, making opponents really feel him inside, living at the free throw stripe, and taking fewer threes, but hitting them at a much better clip, then that really could unlock the 30 points per game version of him. Getting to the foul line alone could easily add 3 to 5 more points to his 24 points he averaged last season, which basically gets him there already. And if he's taking a more efficient, high percentage shot diet on top of that, it's not actually that hard to imagine him reaching 30 points per game this season. But let's say Wemby's averaging 28 points per game, pulling down 11 rebounds like he did last season, dishing out 4 assists, while putting up 5 to 6 stocks a game, while anchoring a top 10 defense. Doesn't that make him a top 5 player in the NBA? Honestly, for me, he was already knocking on that door last season. And if he ups the scoring and keeps evolving defensively, that would give him the kind of stat line we only see out of all-time greats. And if the San Antonio Spurs can do enough winning this regular season, he could legitimately be in the MVP conversation. But that's the real question now. Can the Spurs actually keep up with Wemby and give him a legitimate chance to win the award? This is the fourth area we need to look at, because everything we've talked about so far doesn't actually mean that much if the Spurs can't actually win games. Right now, the betting markets have San Antonio projected to win 44 this season, which probably puts them in the play-in tournament and not that much further. For Wemby to win the MVP from that kind of a win total, he'd likely need to be averaging over 30 points per game and truly having a historic individual season. But there is a world where the Spurs go over that 44 game win number and become a legitimate playoff team. And how they get there really comes down to their supporting cast and new system. De'Aaron Fox is easily the biggest wild card for San Antonio this season. Everybody knows how good he can be. Back in 2023, he put up 26.6 points per game, led the NBA in steals, and shot 53% true shooting. But he's sidelined to start this season with a hamstring injury, which is definitely concerning. Even if it isn't a major injury, hamstrings can linger, especially for a guy who relies on speed as much as he does. Then when you pair that with how Fox has been an inconsistent three-point shooter over the course of his career, it gets even more concerning. He shot 32% from three back in 2023, 37% in 2024, which was the best three-point shooting season of his career. But in 2025, that number went back down to 31%. And if that burst isn't fully there, it could really hurt both his season and the rhythm of the Spurs when he does make his return. The chemistry piece here is also really important. Last season, Fox and Victor Wembanyama barely played together because of Victor's blood clot issue. This year, it's Fox who's injured, already missing training camp and the entirety of preseason, the time where chemistry usually gets built the fastest. Now, they're going to have to figure it out on the fly during the regular season, and that could certainly lead to some growing pains. Growing pains that might hurt Wemby's MVP chances. But the Spurs do have another wild card. Dylan Harper. He looked fantastic in the preseason, averaging 8.7 points, 4.7 assists, and a steal per game on 46% shooting. And the really encouraging part was how he made 40% from three-point land. That's a massive jump from his college days, where he shot 33% from three. Harper could even get some real starting minutes early, and once Fox returns, having him off the bench to stagger the minutes and even share the floor with him a little bit, I think is going to be awesome for Harper's development. Then there's Stefan Castle, who just came off winning the Rookie of the Year last season. In the final 30 games of the season without Wemby, he managed to put up 17.8 points, 5.1 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal, all on 53% true shooting. He's already a strong defender with elite athleticism, but like Fox and Harper, three-point shooting is the concern. He made just 28% from deep last season, which basically makes him a non-factor from that range. There's a lot of guys who aren't reliable three-point shooters, and around Wemby, that could definitely be a real weakness. But here's the thing, the Spurs aren't trying to play like everybody else. They're leaning into their strengths. During the preseason, they attacked the rim relentlessly and defied teams to stop them. Stefan Castle is really dangerous downhill. Fox is nearly impossible to stay in front of, and Wemby, well, he's Victor Wembanyama. Add in cutters like Harrison Barnes, Keldon Johnson, and even Dylan Harper, and they've got the pieces to run a paint-first offense, all based around movement and timing. Wemby's already shown he can make the right reads as well, giving this team shades of a budget Denver Nuggets offensive system, with Wemby filling in as that Nikola Jokic type offensive hub. But there's one more card that San Antonio could play. A smart trade at the deadline could shift their ceiling. They made a splash last year by adding De'Aaron Fox, but this time it might be more of an around the edges type move, like trading Harrison Barnes. He's exactly the kind of veteran that contenders would want, but he just does not fit the Spurs timeline. And he eats up minutes that could be going to new rookie Carter Bryant. Especially if Carter Bryant starts to figure out his jumper, a Harrison Barnes trade would make even more sense. The type of move that could push them out of the play-in tier and into a real playoff spot. And if they get there, Wemby's MVP case becomes even stronger, whether it happens this season or the next. The Victor Wembanyama era isn't something on the horizon anymore, and this season, I think we're going to see the beginning of it. Now, he still does have to chase guys down like Anthony Edwards, Steph Curry, Giannis, Luka, the Joker, and SGA, but if the Spurs are competitive, he could make far greater progress this season than anybody's anticipating. And if you want to see what his competition looks like in the West this season, then you can check out my full NBA over or under predictions video right now.